Welcome to the Wolverine Confidential Podcast. I am MLive sports writer Andrew Kahn, joined today by
Ryan Zuke.
Aaron McMann.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. We've got a lot to talk about. First and foremost would be the fact that Michigan men's basketball coach John Beilein is returning to school. There's not been a contract extension announcement yet, but he pledged his commitment to the university via Twitter, which I thought was kind of funny, given that he is not really known for his tweeting. I mean, he tweets like once every 2 weeks. He'll retweet something now and then, and yet, of course, that's how the kids are doing it today. Why not 65-year-old John Beilein as well, announcing his commitment, if you will, recommitment to Michigan.
That's it. Good recommitment.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go.
Were you surprised at all?
No. I'll be talking to him one-on-one for the first time later this afternoon, but he has made now some public comments. He was on local radio for an hour on Friday, I believe it was, and the one thing is, like, he didn't get to see the process play out in full. He withdrew his name. He was not offered the job, but he withdrew his name before a final decision was made one way or the other. And reports now are that the Pistons have found their guy in former Raptors coach Dwayne Casey. Now maybe he was the front runner all along. Who knows? Maybe Beilein wasn't really feeling the love right away. Had he been offered it earlier in the process, that would have been interesting. I think there could have been some very, very nervous and possibly then disappointed Michigan fans. But yeah, surprised that he returned. No, again, in the end of the day, he wasn't offered the job.
And he spoke with a couple college coaches that went to the NBA too, to kind of gauge what life might be like in the NBA too, didn't
Exactly, and I feel like we touched on that maybe in the previous week's podcast. Brad Stevens and Billy Donovan were two that he reached out to, and I think Stevens in particular has sort of reopened the door for the NBA as far as how they're looking at college coaches. But they both told him something that we touched on, which was that the lifestyle is actually you're not really working as hard, at least as much, I guess is the better way to put it. Not as hard, but they grind during the season, but there's an actual off season in pro sports where there's just nothing. There's no responsibilities. You're not recruiting. A free agency, dead period, whatever it is, which is just not the case in college. As you guys know, you're always recruiting. Beilein said on the radio, he's always got to be texting someone or keeping track of someone else, and it's just it's hard to ever truly get away. So
we done in the last couple of weeks done a lot of talking about what would have happened had he taken the Pistons job, at least from the Pistons perspective. But and it's a moot point now. But had he left Michigan, I mean, things would have probably changed here too. The coaching staff, obviously, maybe would have brought them to Detroit, maybe not.
Yeah.
There was a huge ramifications with recruiting. So a lot could have changed had he left. Now he's obviously not leaving, but it could have signified a huge change in Michigan basketball.
Absolutely, it would have been. I mean, he did say on his radio appearance that the assistant coaches did not know his decision before that tweet came out, and he sent it from the basketball offices, and they were all in the office at the time, and he just hears this cheering, and they're running up and down the halls, and as much as I'm sure they do love working for him. It was also their jobs were at stake because a couple of them just been here a year. Would not have really been serious candidates to potentially replace John Beilein. Probably would not. Certainly not all three of them have followed him to Detroit. You would think he would have wanted some coaches with NBA experience on his staff. So yeah, after uprooting and coming here and getting a taste of Michigan and a national championship run, to just be kind of out of a job would at this time of year too, when staffs are already assembled. All the new coaches have been hired essentially, and staffs are put together. There's no real open jobs. So yeah, that would have been you could see why they reacted the way they did.
I think that story too shows how close to the vest he kept this whole thing. He didn't obviously. It sounds like he didn't tell many people. His assistants obviously didn't know until he sent the tweet out. So it sounds like it was his decision, and he didn't talk to many people about it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to come off as like I'm patting myself on the back for my reporting or lack of uncovering anything, but sort of this is my hunch from talking to people somewhat close to him was that he wasn't talking to people somewhat close to him. It was only pretty on the radio. He said my wife Kathleen and I think Jack the dog. He said were those who knew.
And Jack the dog wasn't talking.
He wasn't. He was not. Three of his four kids, he said, found out via Twitter. I think the daughter who's in Ann Arbor, he was able to see her face to face and tell her about it. But some good friends in the coaching community and others who have connections to him didn't know. The information was coming out from the Pistons side of things, basically in the end he decided to withdraw before the process played out even farther than it did. And you just wonder if, again, I'll be asking him this today, the pressures of being an employed college coach. Kind of forced his hand a bit, because again, you've got to recruit and you've got, a fan base and administration that's, has you're under their employ, and it's like, well, so in the end, he said he felt he had a great thing to come back to. He doesn't have to. There was no regrets, I guess, on his part. But I think we've covered that pretty well. We can move on to football. You were at another camp this weekend.
Yes, another camp. There was no Urban Meyer did not show up at this one, but there was an interesting visitor, Ken Griffey Jr.
Griffey,
noted baseball former star. Yeah, I can remember watching him growing up in the height of the home run era in the 90s, early 2000s. Him and Sosa and McGuire.
Were you a huge for people of a certain in their 30s? I'd say he was the player. He was the favorite player of so many. I mean, he was my older brother's. He was not mine, but I mean, were you two? Either you?
He was up there for me. I mean, he didn't play in Detroit, so I guess there was the whole the anti-hometown thing. But no, I appreciated his body of work, and I think I appreciated even more. And this is another topic for another day. But he was at the height of the steroid era, and he was one of the guys that really wasn't involved with that stuff.
Absolutely,
he was as clean as a whistle, from what it sounds like. So I think as I've gotten older, I've appreciated more of his work more. And he's able to do all that, and he was a really good center fielder. I mean, I was going through his stats. He won Gold Gloves. He's won Silver Slugger awards. He was, I think, a 13-time All-Star.
Yeah, I mean, he was the coolest guy.
I still remember in 2006, and he had a 104-mile-per-hour fastball from Joel Zumaya, about 450 feet, a grand slam against the Tigers. I was like, oh my gosh, only Ken Griffey would be able to. It was.
He was still wearing the backwards hat. He was, he was still like himself. Looking to put on some weight. Obviously, he's a little older. I think he's in the mid-40s now.
He's kind of forever like the young kid in our minds or whatever. But he's got a young kid. He's got
several. He's got several. Yeah. One of the reasons he was there was his youngest son, Tevin, was actually at the camp, participated, paid the fee, I believe, and participated. It ended up he's unranked, but he's a cornerback out of Orlando High School, Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando. Didn't have any offers going into the thing. He had some interest from some of the schools out west, I think Arizona, Oregon, a couple others. But Michigan, at the end of the day after the camp, we kind of hung around. The reporters spoke to some of the Michigan players afterwards. We didn't talk to Griffey or his son, but we saw Harbaugh and Griffey converse for a few minutes, had a conversation. Griffey was there with his wife and his extended family. There were several people there. And he kind of during the camp he kind of hung out on the sideline, didn't move around much. You could tell people would walk up and try and get autographs and pictures and stuff. But no, him and Harbaugh spoke for several minutes after the camp. I'd assume that's when the offer came out, because it came out Sunday morning that Michigan had in fact offered Tevin a scholarship. 24/7 has him listed as a 5'10", 160-pound cornerback, class of 2020. So he'll be entering his sophomore year. So he's got a few more years. Griffey's been on record actually as saying, had he played college football, he would have wanted to play at Michigan. So Michigan's always been a destination school. He's always looked up to it. Obviously, he went into baseball and excelled there. But clearly, there's interest there. Who knows if it translates to anything further? But it was interesting. Harbaugh's been doing these satellite camps now for several years now. Obviously, he's the one that kind of started the whole thing. And You know, he's always had these celebrities. He's had some celebrities have showed up. You know, big time athletes, and you know, Griffey was the latest one. You know, you know, the camp circuit at least this year started on June 1st. So Harbaugh's been going pretty much nonstop since. This was in fact the first real official camp on Michigan's campus. They got another one on June 18th, this next Monday. But yeah, Griffey was the noted celebrity.
Yeah, the oldest son is an NFL wide receiver.
Yes.
You know, he's not a star by any means, but he's cashing NFL paychecks. Then the daughter was a basketball player at Arizona. I saw she had to, you know, her career ended a little early because of injuries, much like her father, I guess.
Yeah.
And now Tevin, defensive back. I know I had read a story. There was a, you know, Sports Illustrated "Where Are They Now" story a couple years ago about, you know, Ken Griffey, the dad, and you know, it said that I think Tevin at the time was playing quarterback, but now, you know, now he's cornerback. But yeah, I'm sure again the star players are probably all playing quarterback at some point. But yeah, it made mention of his, you know, promising, I guess, football career even then. And I also remember a detail. It said he doesn't wear hats anymore. He's a visor guy. So I was, you know, somewhat surprised to see him in the real baseball cap backwards, and yet.
Yeah, I don't think you can rock a backwards visor. I don't think that's a very popular look.
No.
I know I can pull that off.
But yeah, Griffey, I did see him play. I saw him hit home run. I did have to look it up, but I keep all my tickets because I'm a super nerd. Home run number 538. I saw him hit at Shea Stadium. Against the Mets when he was with the Reds. And yes, I will also know him for his acting chops. The movie Little Big League, one of my favorite sports films, as well as that episode of Fresh Prince where Hillary mistakes him for a quarterback,
I do remember
and
that
wants to you know, hang out with him because of his riches. But yeah, was there any other sort of news that came out of this camp really, or it was more?
Not a ton. I mean, we spoke to a few of the players before we were shut down. Rashod Gary still maintains. He said earlier in spring that he wanted to become the best defensive end duo in the country with Shea Patterson. Now he's going one step further and wants the defensive line to be one of the best in the country. He thinks it can be, and I think there's some merit there. I mean, obviously Gary. You know, many are projecting at this point to be maybe a top 5 pick in next year's NFL draft. Chase Winovich, again, he told us that he was told that he could have been a 3rd or 4th round pick this year in this past year's NFL draft. So in theory, if he stays healthy, he could be another, you know, 1st or 2nd day pick next year. Then you've got a lot of experience in the middle. So Michigan's defensive line, I think, is going to be set. It's going to be obviously the defense returns 9 of its 11 starters from last year. So it was the number 3rd in the country. So I mean, there's merit there. I mean, he can back up what he said. You know, he did say that he wrote it in his locker that he wants his team to be the best defensive line in the country. Just to remind himself every day when he opens the locker and looks in. So yeah, we spoke to Rashod Gary, spoke to Ben Mason, who is healthy. The plan for him still is to play both sides of the football. He played fullback last year. He had 3 carries for 4 yards and 2 touchdowns. So very efficient. Very efficient. But they wanted to play linebacker. It sounds like he's going to get some reps there. He didn't want to talk much about it. We asked him, and it was a lot of one-sentence responses. So he finally ended it by saying, we'll see what happens in September. So he clearly didn't want to talk about it much, but I anticipate seeing him on both sides of the football at some point next year. They like his hitting ability, and you know he's a physical guy, and Harbaugh likes physicality. So. Yeah. Other than that, there wasn't a ton out of that.
You might have said it, but Griffey, Tevin he's a 2020 class.
2020,
is that correct?
2020.
Now there was a decommitment from this 2019 class. They
yes.
did the next class to, I guess, come in. Yeah. If you could
that
speak of that.
came on Saturday to Corey Couch, 4-star defensive back, also from Florida. He was from the Miami area. He committed to Michigan late April.
That was right after he committed to
after he
Tennessee.
decommitted from Tennessee. So this is his 2nd decommitment. I know some fans are up in arms about it. I've learned to take less stock on these verbal commitments nowadays from these kids, especially if it's early on. Nowadays, at least it started last year and will continue this year, but there'll be 2 signing periods again. So kids will be able to sign in December and then again in January.
And he didn't really offer a reason, did he? He just
no,
said
just literally officially decommitted from the University of Michigan. So he's got several offers from several different schools. Now he's listed as 5'9", 148, but I read somewhere, and that's his official listing on the recruiting websites, but I read somewhere that his high school coach was telling people he's closer to 160 now. So he's small, but apparently he's quick and talented because he's ranked as a 4-star. So but he's got several other offers. Some people are theorizing he's going to stay home and go to the University of Miami, which is one of the schools that's offered him. But again, Michigan lost him. They're down to 10 commitments now, but I mean they've got plenty of time.
Right. So. We talked about this with a couple episodes ago with the super young kids, the 8th graders or whatever they offered. Like these commitments, they're not binding really on either side, and I don't know. On the basketball side, with a recruit that's just one year away from coming in, there are times I actually feel bad for the coaches when you're trying to assemble a class and put all the pieces together, and then someone you thought you had just drops out. But with football especially, there's just so many moving pieces. It's like, who's to say how many spots will even be open with early NFL departures or more guys coming to the class or potentially dropping off. So. In the end, not a huge blow for Michigan. Right?
Not at all. I mean, they're still, I think, 14th in the nation in the recruiting class. I think 2nd in the Big Ten. They're still, they've still got a 5-star. They've got several 4-stars with verbal commitments already. They're chasing several 4 and 5-stars already that they're in play for. So I mean, it's not a huge loss. There's been talk for the last couple of weeks that this Corey Couch kid was reconsidering anyway. So I don't think it was unsurprising for the coaching staff.
Gotcha. And I mean, you've got their potential starting quarterback, could be suiting up for the Texas Rangers this time in the next year. So who knows? These things change. That news, when I saw that headline from you on MLive.com, Aaron, it really surprised me because, we read a lot about Shea Patterson. As once he was in the mix to possibly come to Michigan, and then of course once he actually committed, and once he was ruled eligible, and I don't remember, maybe it was mentioned at some point his baseball career, but it was, and the reason it wasn't because he hasn't played since
junior year of high school.
Yeah, okay. He did play as a junior.
He did, okay. Yeah. And before he transferred to IMG, he played from what I was able to tell, his freshman to junior year. Those were 2 different schools, but the sophomore, junior were at Calvary Baptist in Louisiana. I looked up his stats. I can only find his stats as a freshman, but he was batting average of 364. He had a home run, 6 extra base hits, 19 RBI. So it sounds like he was talented. He was drafted technically as a 3rd baseman, obviously listed as being from Michigan. It was 39th round, pick 1169 overall.
Yeah, there are 40 rounds.
40 rounds, yes. Yeah. So it was. It was reported in the Dallas Morning News that the Rangers actually brought him in for a pre-draft workout. Now I don't know to the extent those go. I don't know if it was literally them bringing them in to see if he could still field and throw. But the MLB draft is a fun thing because there's 40 rounds.
You could take some gambles in the final round.
Yeah, they're taking kids that are they're somebody's son or grandson or
Mike Piazza was drafted as a favor to Tommy Lasorda. Yeah.
So if football doesn't work out for Shea Patterson, I suspect he could give baseball a try. Michigan made it clear right after. In fact, I think the Michigan's official football Twitter account, within minutes of the announcement coming that he was drafted, saying Shea Patterson will be playing football for Michigan. There's no worry here. This is basically, the Rangers basically hold Patterson's rights at this point, should he decide to pursue a baseball career.
I just find it ironic that the Rangers also drafted Russell Wilson too. I don't know if they have a thing for NFL quarterbacks or a little publicity stunt. I don't know.
It's completely different than the Oklahoma quarterback.
Right.
So he's got huge. That's a huge financial decision for him to actually weigh.
Exactly.
For Patterson, nothing. I mean, I didn't see anything reported about what his signing bonus was, what they were potentially going to offer him. My guess is he right away said I'm good here. Yeah. But typically, from what I've read, it's like $1,000 signing bonus for many of these kids in these late rounds. So one-time payment of $1,000, and then if you do want to actually report to their minor league, their lower level affiliate, you're looking at a lifestyle that's under probably about $1,000 a month and riding buses, and it's not glamorous at those stages. So it's not like this was a multi-million-dollar decision that he has to make right now.
It was surprising. I was surprised when I saw it. I will say that. I'd heard he played baseball, and I think he ran track or something else in high school. So I mean, he played multiple sports in high school up until senior year when he went to IMG. His final year of high school, it was solely football. But up to that point, he was a 3-star athlete, or a 3-sport athlete, excuse me. So I don't know, surprised, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's, he's an athletic kid.
Yeah.
Probably the big number around Shea Patterson right now is that the new 20-1 odds of him winning the Heisman.
Yeah, this has come up now twice. NFL.com did a thing, was last month. I think they had him third on their top 18 Heisman hopeful list or whatever, and I think that was written to drive clicks and everything else. I mean, but there's some merits, I guess. His stats are there. He's drawing a lot of hype. Vegas came out. Yes, I think it was over the weekend. They released the odds for the Heisman Trophy hopefuls. He was 20-1. It was, I think, 5th best odds of everyone.
Right.
Top 15. So it's like.
And he's not even technically the starting quarterback.
Technically not yet.
Yeah. You can never put too much stock in that. An actual point spread for a game, yes, because if they're wrong on that, too far off, then they can get pounded on the other side and lose. Correct. For something like this, there's no real way for a bettor to capitalize on, say, Shea Patterson being overvalued. I mean, you can just go bet on someone else, but it depends what their value is. You can't short the Shea Patterson Heisman stock, I guess. Right. So there's no real downside to them making him, maybe a better favorite, if you will, than he should be. But yeah, he was one of 4. Then does that make it? University of Michigan student athletes who were drafted by
2 pitchers and their center fielder also were drafted. So they had 11 the previous year, the most ever, and then it was a little bit the down year for MLB draft picks for them. But they have a lot of good young players next year, as we talked about before. So
right.
There probably will be more coming up in the next couple of years for the Wolverines.
Exactly. I feel like this is what you had been talking about, is that, with this new coach, or with this current coach getting, the last few classes, of clearly the talent is there. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Three picks is 3 picks. It's not.
Yeah, none in the top 10, but 14 and then 2 in the later rounds. But I mean, they got a shot.
They can claim Shea too,
yeah.
even though he's never played a game.
Right. Yeah,
he was listed. Michigan, University of Michigan, third baseman.
Right.
And then sort of some odds and ends. We have a
I know we said that the other Michigan sports were over with, but we were wrong. There was. Track and field was still going on, and there is a national champion from the University of Michigan.
Not a huge spectator sport, I just got to say. I'm not going to knock it as a sport. It's a sport, absolutely, and I'm sure people do attend, but, I guess I should have been more clear in what I meant when I said that. But yes, tell us about this champion.
Ben Flanagan, a 5th-year senior running in the 10,000 meter, so quite a long distance event there. Comes from behind in the last 100 meters and steals the win. I was just showing Andrew the video before, and he was behind by a decent amount entering the final 100 meters, and just put on a charge, almost a full sprint after running about over 9,000 meters and to claim the victory. And he wasn't expected to win at all. Wasn't the favorite going in, and just ran the race of his life. And what a way to end a career for that young man. So.
Yeah, it's a way to go out. That's it.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Cool. Congratulations to him.
Absolutely. Well, that will conclude this episode of the Wolverine Confidential Podcast. Thanks for listening, watching. We'll be back next week.